Okay folks, back on the rollback here a little bit. I was wanting to get a PTO ordered. Here's a hydraulic pump. This was the pump that was on the original Jerry-Dan bed when it was on that 3500 HD. A couple things. It's a 7/8 by 13 spline shaft, SAE pattern, and a 3 1/4 pilot. Your pilot is your size of your hole here. And usually don't worry about length too much because usually you have extra length, so that's not a problem. But I called, lined up what PTO I needed, and decided, just like on every Allison, better get up under it and check and make sure it had a PTO gear before you order anything. So I decided to do that next. Okay, one of the good things about checking an Allison is you don't lose any transmission fluid, but as you can see, that's not a gear. So we have a transmission with no PTO gear. So that basically screws us completely on putting a PTO on this transmission, unless I was to pull the transmission out, change out the piece, and I don't even know what's involved in that because I've never done one, but I really don't want to do it on this. So we've got one other option, and this PTO unit was going to be $421, and I was going to be able to run the original PTO, or the original hydraulic pump, so I wouldn't have to buy one. But we're going to have to go a little different route with this. Okay, as you can see, everything on this truck is stuffed in like a sardine can. Not much room to work. But the one good thing about this being an ambulance, it does have 2 alternators on it, but it also has 2 AC compressors. As you can see, there's an AC compressor back there, and that's for the truck, and there's actually an AC compressor right here, and this is for the box. Well, we're not running the box, and the lines are unhooked. Still only runs 1 belt, and it's a 6-groove serpentine. And the bad thing, this is a 5-inch pulley hydraulic pump with an electric clutch. It's got a 6-inch pulley, and we're going to have to do some finagling to get it in here. There's a little bit of room. I think we can work with it. I really didn't want to go this route. There's advantages to this over the PTO. You can get a PTO with air shift, you can get it with cable shift, or you can get it with electric shift, but you're going to pay extra for it. And anyway, the PTO, or the hydraulic pump that mounts on there, is $200 higher. We're looking at $629 for that pump. 12 gallons per minute at 2,000 RPM, and we still got to do, like I said, some finagling. I'm hoping I can get by with using the same belt. There's a pretty good adjustment right here, and you can see that it's adjusted pretty tight. It's got a lot of travel left up in here, so we may be able to loosen it all the way, get our pump mounted on there. And the pump comes with a cast iron flange, which it comes down and mounts flat, so maybe we can use these brackets here and possibly put a flat across it, and you can mount it tilt it at an angle a little bit if you need to. But the hoses do come in the backside, which is a good thing. We'll have to snake them through, make sure they're not on the exhaust or anything like that. And that suction line is pretty good size. I think it's about 1 1/4 inches, maybe even 1.5 inches. So, but anyway, that's what we've got to do. But like I said, one of the advantages on an electric hydraulic pump is you can leave it in park. You don't have to take it out of park. Now on the 1000, I'm not even sure if you can run the PTO in park. In my other truck, I don't have park in the Allison, and it's not in the transmission, so you've got to run it in neutral to run the PTO. And I'm not sure on these. I'm not up to date on this newer stuff, but I do know the electric clutch, you can just flip the switch and go. That's quick and easy. Kind of a pain. Run into one time a guy had a setup, and he bought the truck, the hydraulic pump that normally mounted back on the frame, the guy had it mounted where the passenger seat went, up almost in the window, and he was having trouble with it priming, and that was his answer for that. So anyway, I went and put a one-way check valve in the system for the guy, and took care of that problem. But so you got to make sure it's going to stay primed, and just little stuff like that. But we're going to have to go that route because I'm not pulling no transmission just because of that. And like I said, it's going to be $200 more, but we're getting a brand new pump over using, you know, a new PTO with an old pump. So maybe it'll work out in the long run. And I don't know. I think I would have rather went with the PTO, but I'm used to that. But you know, with it being a rollback, it may not be such a bad deal. Wrecker, you know, I don't know. I don't know how that would work out. You know, I abuse a wrecker pretty hard, and the last thing you want is to be working a bed and hear a belt slip. And but this belt here, Lord, 2 alternators, 2 AC compressors, a water pump, power steering pump, and then a load of idlers there. And that is, I think that bottom one there is a spring idler plus the adjustment. And then there's another idler. There's plenty of stuff, that's for sure. That's a long belt, so, but we'll have to deal with it. It is what it is, not a big deal. I'm about used to it. So I was just noticing something while I was sitting here talking to everybody. If that's the glow plugs, they're not wired up. There's nothing on them, and I'm kind of confused at that. Why they're sitting there with no wires running to it. Let me check the other side. Let me see. Yeah, this side's wired. Huh. Well, I don't know if it's supposed to be wired over there. I've never heard of nothing like that. One side being wired, one not. Now this thing don't have any trouble starting at all. But don't know. All right, we'll figure it out. And I think we're gonna do away with a lot of these wires. As you can see, these wires right here, they just go around to the front, and most of them are cut off. And I just got to be a little bit more careful than what they were about cutting them out, because they got them intertwined here with the light wires and everything else. So what a mess. All right, show you more. Okay folks, it's been a little while since I filmed that other part. We had our work day the other day, but finally got my pump in here. And I went with a little different pump than what I was talking about on the other video, because you know, I said the other one had a cast iron foot. It's an aluminum pump, and it's some, you know, it'd be an off brand. So I went ahead, and it wasn't hardly any more money to get just to get a Muncie pump, and it's full cast iron pump, and pretty nice. Basically it's got the same style mount, and you know, it's just a 2-bolt mount. There's not much to it. And I figured, well, Muncie, you know, we'll get a good American product, Muncie, Indiana. And I don't know if you can read that bottom line. There you go, out of the shade where it says made in China. Ain't that nice? But anyway, we got it. 6 groove. Gonna have to get it mounted. It's 32 pounds. It's very much heavier than the other pumps, the aluminum pumps, but you know, we wasn't worried really about weight. Just really wanted something that would last longer. Well, I guess it's got 4 bolts. 2 goes in one way, but it came with the switch, and it's got an overspeed. Now this is 9 gallons per minute at 1,000 RPMs, and you know, it'll put out what we need, I have no doubt. And you can actually run this thing safely up to 3,000 RPMs, which is kind of surprising. You know, you wouldn't want to do that with a PTO or a PTO pump. So I think it's going to be plenty, and shouldn't be bad. If we can get it mounted, you know, that's going to be the fun part, because you know, we want to get this thing lined up perfect. We don't want to have any belt issues. And like I said before, the last thing I want is to hit a lever on the hydraulics. You know, it puts a load on your hydraulic pump, and especially, you know, when you're working with something heavy. And I don't want to hear a belt squeal when I hit the lever. You know, definitely don't want to. 1 1/4 and 3/4. But anyway, I think this total was $660 something maybe. So more money than I wanted to spend, but you know, this is the way it goes. It's either that or don't do the truck, right? So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing around here and maybe start trying to get that mounted on there. I'd love to get the hydraulics to be able to work, and then we can jump on the you know, the fabrication of the headache bar and stuff like that. There's a few other little things, you know, I need mount toolboxes and all that stuff, but you know, it's nice if you're able to roll the bed back out of your way with the hydraulics and tilt it and move it and do whatever you need to do while you're working on it. So that's going to be our goal, is to work on trying to get it mounted and maybe get some hoses made and get something rolling. All right, show you more. Get in there. Get in there. Ain't nothing working right today. Guess I'm gonna do it myself. Okay, folks, getting kind of late. Had to go out and do some towing. Had a wreck and a few breakdowns, and hopefully I get a few minutes here to work on it. We'll go ahead and jack it up and take this wheel off, put it on jack stand, and let me see. Maybe we can get that pump off. Don't know how far I'm going to get, but we'll see. All right. Alright, that would give me a good chance to check the brakes on it, which look really good. No problem there. They'll run for quite a while. Gonna need the rotors turned on the next brake job though. A little bit of wear. It's not real bad. But should be able to get to this a little easier now. And let's see if we can get the belt loose. This adjuster here has actually got a screw to adjust it tight, but I think this is of course still a spring tensioner, so we'll get a 15mm wrench on that and see if we can get enough tension off to get it off of there. And I might ought to draw that belt out on something, on a piece of paper, if it ain't posted on here anywhere, because that is a long belt. I think it's about 860 feet long and 2 inches. It's something else. All right, let's see what I can do. Okay, we got it off and out of the way, and while we're here, just checking out a few other things. It looks like this front glow plug's hooked up. I think there was supposed to be straps that went back to each one of them, and I'm gonna see if I can find out so I can be sure. And another thing too is I found this wire. This is a factory wire. This is not one that was added on for the ambulance. And this thing, I would think, would either need to be grounded or power. And it's out of the main harness going to the starter. I'm betting grounded, but I'm not positive. So I think I'll strip it back enough to get the collar off of it and get a hold of my buddy James, and that works at GM, and see if he can look at the wiring diagram and see what wire that is, and see if I need to ground it. You know, like I said, this ambulance stuff's just a mess. And you can see, I think that there's a positive port here. I don't know if that's ambulance or not. Some of the wires belong, some of them don't. So it's a heck of a mess. More wires than a damn 747. But anyway, I've looked this over, and you can see, like I said, this has got a flat plate that mounts it. And actually set it up with the flat plate facing the engine that way, and I really didn't like it. I think what I'm going to do, we can basically do away with this piece, okay, and put us a spacer between these two and bolt them together, and that'll help support this idler pulley up here. And because I don't want to get that bracket shaking or anything, because I want to keep that and use it. and I think I will maybe trim this off and actually cut into this enough to make me a place for a flat plate. This is a really good strong brace. This one's good and strong, and if it could have bolt back in here, which it didn't even have one, but this nut is welded to this plate, and then there's supposed to be something going through here to be able to hold these two plates together. And so we'll get a long bolt in that, and like I said, get a plate on there, and I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think it's going to actually come out pretty easy, pretty simple. And I can 90 it. In other words, basically this plate's good and flat, come up and just make sure my plate's level with you know, with everything, or with the engine itself, and that should make it pretty easy. And then I'll be able to you know, fix the plate right. I can machine the plate out and go ahead and put grooves in it to slide the pump forward and back. That way we can get a good angle on it. And you know, you can actually, there's companies that make kits for brackets, you know, to bolt a hydraulic pump on, and you know, there's no way I'm going to spend the money that they want to buy one when you know, I can build one, and it's probably just as daggone easy, because you know, you got to take half the truck apart to get some of them brackets on. And of course, this actually bolted from here to here, and this is the support for this front end, and you can see it actually loosened the front end up when I took it off. But you know, worst comes to worst, we can redesign it some if it's a little bit, you know, in the way of our pump. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to clear it, but you know, we can work with that however we need to work with it. And what I would do is put it on and get this where it needs to be, and then figure out a way of bracing it so it can't move, and then take it back off, and then you know, do our reinforcement. Or there's you know, another way you can do it would be to put it on and build out what you need and weld it in, and then just cut the section out that you don't need. So you know, there's a lot of ways to get by with stuff like that. And but I think we're going to be fine. I think it's, you know, it's turned out to be a whole lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I'm hoping I can keep that pump tucked in far enough that I don't have to buy a belt, but you know, if I do, I do. That belt is, like I said, it is long. But anyway, I'm going to call it a night, and might get a little bit of time to work on my motorcycle engine after I eat. But anyway, either way, we'll get back on this. We're going to get this thing knocked out as quick as we can. All right, appreciate everybody watching. Till next time, bye.